creation of Sherlock Holmes came about because Conan Doyle wanted to write a novel. And he was a doctor by profession, a young man trying to make his way in the profession down at Southsea, where he had a practice, and he wasn't doing very well. He didn't get many patients, and so had a lot of spare time on his hands, and he would sit down and try to concoct a novel. So sitting in his study at Southsea, waiting for patients who never came, Conan Doyle began to evolve a detective story. And of course he needed to have a main character, a detective, who would lead the investigation. So he invented this character, who he first of all called Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes, he mused, and eventually changed it, of course, to Sherlock Holmes, which is now a household name. Sherlock Holmes is, of course, the combination of a rather exotic Christian name, Sherlock, with a very commonplace, down-to-earth surname, Holmes. And in that we have the essence of the character of Sherlock Holmes, somebody who, on the one hand, has his feet very firmly on the ground, looking at the facts and deducing from the facts, but then has this flash of eccentricity and even genius in his makeup as well. Now, a detective needs a sidekick, or somebody who's going to be there to observe what he is doing and to ask the pertinent questions that, of course, the reader wants to know. So he invented a doctor, whom, again, he gave a rather exotic name to originally. He was called Ormond Sacker. But I think Dr. Ormond Sacker rather competed with Mr. Sherlock Holmes in the names area, so he was simplified by Conan Doyle, who happened to know another fellow doctor in Southsea called Dr. John Watson. So he borrowed his friend's name, and Dr. John Watson became, of course, one of the most famous fictitious doctors ever to exist. But what in the name of the devil? The ejaculation had been drawn from my companion by the fact that our door had been suddenly dashed open, and that a huge man had framed himself in the aperture. His costume was a peculiar mixture of the professional and of the agricultural, having a black top hat, a long frock coat, and a pair of high gaiters with a hunting crop swinging in his hand. So tall was he that his hat actually brushed the crossbar of the doorway, and his breadth seemed to span it across from side to side. A large face, seared with 1,000 wrinkles, burned yellow with the sun, and marked with every evil passion, was turned from one to the other of us, while his deep-set, bile-shot eyes and his high, thin, fleshless nose gave him somewhat the resemblance to a fierce old bird of prey. "Which of you is Holmes?" asked this apparition. "My name, sir, but you have the advantage of me," said my companion quietly. "I am Dr. Grimesby Roylott of Stoke Moran." "Indeed, doctor," said Holmes blandly. "Pray take a seat." "I will do nothing of the kind. My stepdaughter has been here. I have traced her. What has she been saying to you?" "It is a little cold for the time of the year," said Holmes. "What has she been saying to you?" screamed the old man furiously. "But I have heard that the crocuses promise well," continued my companion imperturbably. "Ha! You put me off, do you?" said our new visitor, taking a step forward and shaking his hunting crop. "I know you, you scoundrel. I have heard of you before. You are Holmes the meddler." My friend smiled. "Holmes the busybody." His smile broadened. "Holmes the Scotland Yard jack-in-office." Holmes chuckled heartily. "Your conversation is most entertaining," said he. "When you go out, close the door, for there is a decided draught." "I will go when I have said my say. Don't you dare to meddle with my affairs. I know that Miss Stoner has been here. I traced her. I am a dangerous man to fall foul of. See here." He stepped swiftly forward, seized the poker, and bent it into a curve with his huge brown hands. "See that you keep yourself out of my grip," he snarled, and hurling the twisted poker into the fireplace, he strode out of the room. "He seems a very amiable person," said Holmes, laughing. "I'm not quite so bulky, but if he had remained, I might have shown him that my grip was not much more feeble than his own. As he spoke, he picked up the steel poker and, with a sudden effort, straightened it out again. Fancy his having the insolence to confound me with the official detective force. This incident gives zest to our investigation, however, and I only trust that our little friend will not suffer from her imprudence in allowing this brute to trace her. And now, Watson, we shall order breakfast, and afterwards I shall walk down to Doctor's Commons, where I hope to get some data which may help us in this matter.